All right. Hello and welcome. This is Mr. Potiker here with your Screencastify presentation for the unit on political parties and voter behavior. Basically, this is going to be your lecture notes, which will help you understand more about this unit and more about some of the inquiry assignments that we're doing throughout the entirety of the unit, leading up to your assessment at the very end. You're encouraged to, of course, fill in the notes that have been provided for you that you've printed out already for this online course. And of course, you are encouraged to also answer in full the higher order thinking questions that go in sections in your guided notes packet. So let's begin. First off, please be advised that Screencastify uses 10-minute increments, and so of course you'll probably have to click on a few of these links separately. But as they are uploaded, they should all go together cohesively, and you should be able to make sense of them while taking notes. So let's begin. What is a political party? Why do we have them? And really, how do voters behave when it comes to engaging with the political process in our country and in our modern day democracy? Let's take a closer look. So, first off, understand this. A political party, by definition, is an organization that seeks political power by electing people to office so that its positions and philosophy become public policy. Think about it like this. Political parties are really nothing more than sports teams, which implement specific policies that are, in theory, supposed to better the lives of people in government and in a society. You can look at it another way too. To make it more practical, think about organizations at your school. They try to do different things with different objectives, and of course, they organize people with like philosophies to encourage the thoughts to become practices. So it's really no different. Now, just so you guys are aware, there are three parts to every political party: the party organization, which is filled with party professionals, like the leaders and the activists who try to rally support and the ones who actually try to get a number of people involved and engaged in the party. The party in government, which of course are the members of the actual political party who hold public office, who've ran and who've won, and who essentially make the policies and craft the legislation. And of course, there's the political party in the electorate. When you think about the electorate, think about us, society, the ordinary people who identify as Democrats, Republicans, and or all in between. Actually, speaking of all in between, that's one of the best parts about this unit. Most students seem to think that if you're a part of a political party, you have to be either Democrat or Republican, but that couldn't be further from the truth. There are a plethora of political parties, which we're going to look at throughout the totality of this unit too. So why do we need political parties? Many people give political parties a bad name. Many people seem to say and seem to think that, you either have to be a Republican or a Democrat, and that's it. But the fact of the matter is that political parties do so much to actually streamline the legislative and lawmaking process in this country. First, political parties nominate candidates for public office. What political parties try to do is they try to put forth the best people for certain districts and states to go forth and make the policies that represent their constituents. That's us. Political parties are also meant to inform and activate supporters too. They're supposed to encourage voters like you and me to get out there and to vote and to get involved and to do some of the civic duties that we covered in the first unit of this course. Many people believe that there are different functions that political parties serve. For example, political scientists believe in something called the bonding agent function, which basically means that people that they nominate for office serve the people and the party well after they get elected. In other words, if you're a Republican running for the House of Representatives, once you make it in, it's expected that you'll do what's best for your constituents and also the party. As a collective whole, if you are a Republican or if you're a Democrat, you should implement policies that benefit your party and, in theory, benefiting the people too. Political parties, of course, have to govern. They have to make policies, laws, regulations, stipulations, all these things that make our society run. Many political scientists also believe that political parties serve as a watchdog in our government. A watchdog is basically where someone or something watches the other party, especially if they're the party that's not in power, to ensure that the party that is in power is in fact behaving ethically, and basically they have the ability to criticize their policies and to come up with new policies that counteract the policies. In other words, political parties help make our democracy work. Unlike other countries, who only have maybe one political party under one ruler or leader in authoritarian or dictatorial societies, our American democracy allows there to be more than just two political parties. And so we'll get into a little bit more of that later. Now, what are the different types of party systems that exist worldwide in other democracies? It's not just about us, remember. Well, as you can see, multi-party systems, and it's kind of in the name, are societies and governments where there are different parties that are essentially represented in government. For example, in Great Britain, for example, they have a lot of parties that serve in their legislative body. So, in other words, it's about coalition making or team building across different types of groups that are all represented in government. Minor parties have an incentive to persevere in these types of societies, and they often do get elected and have seats in their types of legislative bodies. Countries like Great Britain, who have this type of multi party system, have proportional representation, where at the end of an election cycle, it's not just Democrats and Republicans who get in the legislative body, it's people, a plethora of people of all different types of parties who are represented by the actual vote itself. These governments tend to lean towards instability. And what I mean by that is simply this. So every few years, maybe the people of a country or society might have different types of feelings and sentiments and thoughts and emotions that take over. And so their political parties might do different things and vote differently than what you might expect in our traditional Republican and Democratic society. In our society, for example, with our two-party system, we have just two major parties who hold the power. And so, generally speaking, there's a little bit more predictability as to far as how our government is going to run and operate. If there's a Democratic president with Democratic-leaning House of Representatives and Senate, you could expect Democratic policies to be coming out in that way. However, if there's a Republican Party involved in any one of those levels of government, and you flip the script here, there's a little bit more predictability as to what Republicans would do. They might reverse the policies, and even so, those reversals are sometimes minute in nature and not total 180 opposite decisions. Now, the two-party system, even though many people talk of our democracy, is not without its flaws. Let's be fair here when we say this. Our two-party system operates on a winner-take-all philosophy, where if you win the majority of votes, typically, you will therefore win the seats in a legislative body. Many people seem to think that if you vote third party, in other words, not Democrat and not Republican, you are wasting your vote. But that sometimes could negate the importance of understanding what third parties do, which we'll get to later. Governments in two-party system societies tend to lean more towards stable policies, stable philosophies, and stable societies. Policy changes, like I mentioned, are sometimes very minute. Even from, for example, the Obama years, 8 years of Barack Obama, many people were worried that some of the policies that were put in place by the 44th president would be overturned by the 45th president, Donald John Trump. But the fact of the matter is, the way that the two-party system has worked stipulates that even though a person at the top wants to make these changes, there are several different types of things that need to be done on all tiers of government to implement them. And that's very hard to do. So I'm sure that even though Donald Trump would like to reverse some of the policies under the Obama administration by himself, he can't necessarily do that because politics in our democracy is a team sport. You need to have greater advocacy and greater representation to actually overturn your predecessor's policies. And so that's why change in the United States is sometimes very hard to come by, regardless of who is at the top in the office of the presidency. So before we move on to the next slide, let's understand that there's something to be said about why we do what we do. Absolutely, there's a method to the madness. Please click on the next Screencastify clip to understand more about why we have two-party systems in America and really how this actually functions. Thank you.